Rory Jennings, just how embarrassing was that as a defeat for Manchester United for you?
I think it's as bad as it could possibly be. You know, when you think about, say, iconic moments where Manchester United have been beaten in the past, even if you constrict this to just the derby. So the 6-1, the famous one, the Balotelli, why always me, and then obviously the more recent one when Foden and Haaland scored the hat-tricks. This was worse. This was so much worse. This was so much more apathetic. There was so much lacking from this Manchester United team. And sometimes you get anomaly results. Manchester City under Mancini scored 6. It happens. It can happen. They do happen. You know, Southampton once scored 6 against Manchester United. It does happen. Whereas this wasn't that. This was just
a
complete
game.
Demolition. Yeah. Do you know what? You're absolutely right. Do you know what it was more comparable to? It wasn't Titans of the Premier League going head for head. It was minnows in the FA Cup going up against a big team, and the big team just swept them aside. It was Chelsea playing Barnet. It was that level. It was all the cliches. It was men against boys. It was an FA Cup, underdog tale. That's how bad it was. And I think there've been some fairly uninspiring moments for Erik ten Hag in the Manchester United dugout. But this has to be the worst by a distance as well. Not only because of the statement made by City, not only because of the symbolic nature of the fixture, but just because the players gave up. The players weren't playing for him. The players weren't buying into his philosophy. And the second that the players give up on a manager...
In a derby...
Bear in mind, I'm a Chelsea fan, as I've seen players down tools. I've seen it. I know what it looks like. Yeah. And I also know that it's completely irreparable. This was that. This was the first time I think I've seen it with... I've seen bad performances under Ten Hag. They've lost 5 out of 10 this year. I've seen many bad performances this year. But I think that's the first one where you can legitimately say, after 70 minutes, Bruno Fernandes, the captain of the club, wasn't interested anymore. He threw in the towel, waving the white flag. It's outrageous.
Yeah, and what, he was on the pitch, fouling players,
but not even doing that properly.
Yeah,
like sort
couldn't even reach them.
It was like petulant fouling, wasn't it? He didn't lose his head.
It wasn't passionate. Yeah. It was frustration and a sense of having given up. Do you think he should still have the armband? Do you think he should have had it in the first place?
Yes. I think it was the correct decision. I do, honestly. Not necessarily because I think he is captain material or because I think he has shades of John Terry and Roy Keane and Brian Robson merged into his character. Far from it. But I think it was the correct decision at the time. Hindsight may prove me wrong here, but it'd be wrong for me to lie to you and say that I saw this coming because I thought it was an astute appointment. I think he's a very good player. I think he's probably the most technical player at the club. He's a guaranteed starter, and I thought that giving him that armband, when you think of the traditions of the Manchester United armband, it's the spirit of Cantona and Robson and Bruce. It means something, and I thought that might invigorate Bruno Fernandes. It hasn't, and therefore, I was going to say that I think he should be stripped of it, and I think he should be. The only reason why it might be an error.
Who would you give it to?
This is the problem.
If you take it off him, who would you give it to?
This is the problem, Ollie. When I'm saying that he shouldn't have the privilege of wearing the Manchester United armband, which I believe it is a privilege. It makes a mockery of my statement to say that he should be stripped of the captaincy if I can't then say there's an obvious deputy waiting. There's an obvious heir to the throne, because there just isn't.
At all, is there? At all? Are there any players that jump into your mind at all?
No, because I think...
Rashford,
you can make a case for Rashford, I think. Simply being Manc born and bred, as they love to sing and things like that. I think he's also one of the better players at the club. I think he's also a guaranteed starter. And again, adopting my flawed suggestion that it can inspire, I think he's a man that could do with some inspiration. So maybe Rashford would be the answer.
Yeah.
There isn't anyone else, is there?
Not Onana?
Yeah, Ollie. I mean, you have said this to me once already, and it made me question your sanity.
Not Onana.
Can you just try again? Talk me through the help me, help you.
Got a stick, didn't he, for having a go at Maguire, right?
Yeah,
and probably rightly so. But at least it shows he can have a go at his teammates. He can try and inspire them. And no, his performances haven't been good. I know they haven't. But I did respect the way that he came out, especially after the Bayern Munich game, and apologised for it. I thought he actually spoke quite well. He was the player that came out yesterday after that derby as well. to kind of say to the fans we weren't good enough today?
With full respect here, I just have to interrupt you because this is ludicrous. I mean it with respect, Ollie, but there is absolutely no justification for Andre Onana becoming Manchester United captain.
Do you know what? You are right, but I'm just trying to give some kind of alternative to Fernandes. I think what should happen, Rory, to be honest, is that Erik Ten Hag should take Fernandes aside and say, you need to stop behaving like that.
Drop him?
Drop him. Yeah,
Can they afford to drop him, though? That's the problem.
Well, no. I mean, they can't. They can't. They've got Newcastle United next in the EFL Cup, repeat of last year's final.
I mean, you could drop him from that, but it wouldn't make the statement that it needs to make. To drop him and to let the world know why you're dropping him, it needs to make some noise. Yeah. Dropping him from a League Cup game it doesn't do that. I think what's the problem is with Bruno Fernandes in the way that he's captaining this side, it forces us to ask this question. If that is the captain, that model of footballer is the captain, this isn't about his ability. I think he's an incredibly talented player. But the way that he conducts himself as a player, if Manchester United make that the benchmark, they make that the standard, then I think we have a right to ask the question, what kind of club do Manchester United want to be? Because if Bruno Fernandes is the public face of the club, and that's how he behaves on a football pitch, in a derby, then who are Manchester United? Yeah.
But
you see, it's all very well for us to say, well, Ten Hag should strip the captaincy of Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes would have the responsibility to go, hang on a minute, you should be stripped of your responsibilities. You're the one who's picking Maguire. You're the one who
you've already stripped of the captaincy.
Who you've already stripped of the captaincy. You're the one who plays Donny van der Beek, a player that you decided wasn't good enough to feature for Manchester United, and you omitted him from your Champions League squad. You're the one who's played Harry Maguire up front fairly recently. You're the one who brought Wout Weghorst into the team. You're the one who signed Anthony. You're the one who signed Onana. You're the one who signed Mason Mount and leaves him on the bench. You're the one who signed Højlund, who hasn't scored a goal.
In the Premier League.
So all of a sudden, you're the one overseeing this Manchester United side who languish outside the top two qualifying spots in their Champions League group. So suddenly it would open up a real can of worms, wouldn't it? Because it's all very well for us to focus on Bruno Fernandes perhaps not doing his job to the level that we suggest. But whatever the prerequisite level of being Manchester United manager is, Ten Hag is falling massively short of it. They've lost 50% of their games.
Yeah, given all that, should they sack him then?
This is the interesting point, because he deserves to be sacked from his performances. But I also think sacking him doesn't solve any of the problems.
Is that because he's literally brought his own players in, and they've been doing the same thing that they've done every single time, where a manager comes in for a bit, tries to rebuild the team, that team doesn't work because the players don't work.
Yes.
And then they move on to the manager
pattern
again.
Of crisis that seems to emerge at Manchester United constantly. He leaves. Firstly, who goes in there? Secondly, you're asking an awful lot from the Stretford end, aren't you? They have to suddenly pledge love and loyalty and belief in a new man again, start it all again, start the process again. Where does that leave Anthony, who's an £80 million signing, by the way? Where does it even leave Højlund, who was signed by this manager?
Where does it leave Onana? Seriously.
How many of this team have played in the Eredivisie? It's a team built upon the Eredivisie. Like, even Amrabat played over there. Do you know, even Mason Mount played over there. Like, it's a team built on the Eredivisie, which is why it makes such a mockery of the question that
they're just going to try and switch leagues, go and just win the Eredivisie instead.
Get relegated from that. Do you see though? Erik Ten Hag was asked, when are you going to play the Ajax way? And he basically said, we're never going to play the Ajax way because I haven't got the players for it.
Yes, you have, mate. You signed them all.
If you haven't, who has? Who can play that way? It's such a foolish answer. And
to be fair, playing the Ajax way, they're bottom of the Eredivisie at the moment. So,
but look, you know, when you come up with reasons to potentially insulate Ten Hag from criticism, he's doing so many things wrong. He is getting it wrong. The substitutions yesterday, even the substitutions that he made are ludicrous. Like, ludicrous. So they need a goal, they take off Højlund.
I think you're absolutely... I think it's tough, isn't it? There was a lot of blame for the Glazers yesterday, and I completely appreciate why that is, and I completely appreciate the fans having issues with the Glazers, and let's be honest, in most football clubs it is top-down and that happens, but I do think you're right. It's almost like it's, you know, it's a way that Ten Hag can disguise his own...
No, it's cowardly, though. Like, don't get me wrong, Chelsea fans are doing it. Chelsea fans that want Pochettino to be a success and are desperate for Pochettino to be the answer. When things go wrong for Chelsea, they always talk about the board. Now, look, the board, I detest. I think the board are leading the club in a terrible way, and I think that you could say that Clearlake are the worst thing to have ever happened to Chelsea Football Club. But Pochettino's responsible for us being beaten at home to Brentford. Like, we can, when we're talking about a 90-minute spell, Chelsea obviously added the players. Pochettino's obviously been provided with the utensils to win that game. Erik ten Hag's obviously been provided with the utensils to not lose 5 out of 10. So, yeah, there is a bigger picture and a broader conversation. A conversation needs to happen, but not in the aftermath of the 90 minutes.
Just very quickly, Manchester United are 8th in the league now. Where do you think they actually end up finishing the season? Which clubs finish above Manchester United this season?
I think the shape that the Premier League has now, not the final table, obviously, but the shape that it's now adopted. It gives us an inkling as to how it's going to finish. So Manchester United, if they are around 8th at the moment, they will finish somewhere around 8th.
Where are Chelsea? I just got to scroll down.
They certainly
11th. Yeah,
they certainly, Manchester United. What they will not do, and this is all that really matters, they certainly won't be relegated, and they certainly won't make the European Cup spots. And ultimately, that's the definition of success, isn't it?
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.